But I have to say, it was really interesting looking through all the homework. I hope that you all got the chance to check out what your classmates put in as well. I'm not going to go over all of it. I just selected a few, but one of the things my takeaway was we had an 8-panel comic, and I found myself reading the stories far more than I was analyzing how they were drawn. And that's kind of part of the takeaway here is it's like if you have a compelling character with a compelling conflict and you can illustrate, you want to be able to tell it pictorially, but exactly how you do it, that's more of like in our artist mind rather than in the audience. You know, we're reading stories, and that's one of the powerful things about stories. So let me share screen.
Hey, while you're sharing the screen, I didn't leave yet. I'm still here.
Hey,
Sorry.
cool.
I'm lurking. I just wanted to pop in because we had Stephen P. Neary, the showrunner for Cartoon Network, Fungies. We had him as a guest speaker, and he showed Eden. He showed his boards from Clarence, and it was really great. He pitched it, and because you were mentioning that everyone had done these 8-panel comics and you were looking at the story, not the drawings, I wanted to emphasize that the same thing happened when we were looking at the boards. And one of the things that Stephen said in his talk with us was that he never felt like he was a strong drawer. But as he was pitching the stories, you know, we weren't paying attention to the drawing, we were paying attention to the storytelling. And that was really interesting. So I just wanted to say that, although this class is all about, you know, improving your fundamentals and stuff, and getting your understanding of proportion and anatomy and things like that, overall, remember, it's servicing your story. And that's why we're combining the storytelling and the narrative things with the figure drawing, so that you're working on clearly telling your story in an interesting and appealing way. So that's all I wanted to say. And if you can also check out the recording, I did drop it into the Discord, and I will be emailing that out to you. So don't forget to check that out. And now I will leave. Goodbye.
Oh, thanks. I will check out. I didn't know it was, yeah, the recording was available. I'm going to watch it too. That sounds awesome.
Cool.
Yes. Just my quick piggyback on Larissa is something that really helped me as a learning artist is that it was somebody who was, you know, had somebody I looked up to had more talent to me, and they said that skill can be learned, but creativity comes within, you know, so you can always build upon your skill, because some people might take to it earlier, but if you have a good story to tell, you know, don't let a skill hold you back. That's all.
Yeah. We're actually, today is a good day to discuss that a little bit, because we're using references and stuff, but or like photos. But yeah, this is good. I like this topic. Real quick housekeeping. I put last week's homework review in week 3 because I was teaching week 3, but the homework review was for week 2. So just so you know, the homework feedback, I moved it. I figured that out today. So the homework feedback for week 2 is for week 2's homework is in week 2 now. So week 3's feedback I will put in here. Okay, just so you know, that was, if you were looking for the feedback from last week and couldn't find it in week 2, it was in week 3, but I think that would have been confusing. So, okay. So I picked up a lot of people, and so this is, yeah, I just had to review myself the homework, the 8-panel comic. Everyone got that pretty much, same size panels, etc. So I picked a few that I thought were actually, I wanted to pick a ton, but let's pick, I believe, these ones to review. And yes, when it comes to this, you know, I'm just going to go over, I know there's figure drawing, but inevitably it is funny that you know, I actually start considering the story, the narrative that was told. So this was really clever. We have the person, since I know the issue is that I set up, the conundrum was to cross a river. So this character, I know they're looking and they're kind of nervous. They're at a river, so I know they're going to cross a river. They come up with an idea. They make this kind of magic wand, and lo and behold, they've created a bridge. So one note I was thinking was just story-wise for everybody was just set up that conflict. So you have a character who wants something, then we see how they achieve it, right? It's the essence of a story: a character, conflict, conclusion, right? Or objective, obstacle, outcome, right? And so what I want to know is the conflict from the outset. So what I was thinking is you could introduce a panel here. Okay, there we go. Wait. All right, that should do. But where we, maybe you insert a panel. You know, where we see you can pan out to the character. Maybe we see, here they were looking side to side, so that could be, I'm thinking, maybe we have even a deeper perspective of, in fact, there is no way to cross this river for miles. And maybe we even can see that there's the beginning of a path over here, and there's even the ending of a path. Maybe we can even, I didn't think about this, but see that there used to be a bridge here. Sorry about that. Okay, so anyway, this kind of sets up a little bit more of, you know, you could even have like, these are just random ideas, but where at the very outset, we can tell that this river, what the obstacle most definitely is. Like, oh, okay, we need to get across that river. Then, so sometimes you do that with an opening scene, a big long shot like this, and then we zoom into the character. Or you could directly start with the characters, a close-up or a medium shot like this with the character looking around, and then what are they looking at? And so maybe insert this right there. Right, these are a couple options. You could have this in the beginning. But anyway, the point is introduce conflict / obstacle clearly. Right. This already says some conflict or concern. That's always good. But yeah, I really love this pose and these ideas. I wonder, I just thought of something else. And of course, there's a total just suggestion. I wonder with this powerful pose, if you might not consider, since we're looking at like an angle, you might not consider the opposite. There we go. But kind of where you can be looking up. At this figure, or even if it was a full shot, but maybe in this case we do like a medium shot like that, kind of a long shot. I love this you know, this expression, boop, boop, boop. And that's a nice resolution. So anyway, the idea here is just introducing that narrative really quickly so that I know, even though I know it's crossing the river, but I may not know, to say, that's an issue, okay? Let's see. Okay. Oh, this was clever. I like this, and so basically, we've got a witch, and it looks like she's planned perhaps to use the broom. It breaks. So next is we're sewing on another branch of sorts, and it breaks. So she's, you know, here we have a broken branch, we have a broken broom. So, okay, so next she decides to, okay, use an inner tube. That's right, found an inner tube. Okay, I'm trying to remember my thought here. But, oh, I had a conclusion and I lost it. Maybe someone can help me. But anyway, we're going in the inner tube, but that actually seemed to work. So I think kind of, let's just say story-wise, we have a problem. We know it's crossing the river. So that could, maybe you'd have to set that up. But let's assume we're going from there. Now we see the conflict. Our first solution is broken. Our next solution breaks. We're in the river. I'm assuming she swam back. Our third solution works. Story's over, essentially, in the way I understand it, unless, yeah. So what probably needs to do is, as we're going across, this probably needs to not work. In other words, maybe another, I was going with this wood theme of wood snapping. Yeah, maybe she could hit a log that pierces this, the air comes out and something happens. And then maybe making it to shore. I almost expected also here, we have another piece of wood for this to also, love this. Your cauldron here. And so essentially in a series of mistakes that we haven't been able to accomplish, crossing the river, maybe she breaks this piece off, and then ultimately, yeah, maybe he uses it as a wand and gets across the river. But there's something in the setup that I think could be played with. Sorry to give you a vague answer towards the end of that story, but essentially, you've led a few things that you could give us a twist at the end. A few things that I will anticipate breaking wood. This should probably fail as well. And we're back to square one. Maybe we've got a good final idea. This is a good setup. So this broke and we're back. Okay, yeah, I'm so tired. I need help. Here, oh, I've got it. Final solution. We're going to use our witch's magic. It breaks. Oh my goodness. This is the worst. We've been through so much, and then by some unexpected way that this kind of answers the final idea. So instead of recreating a broom, I might Does anyone have any ideas? Are you following my train of thought?
You want something different than the broom.
Well, we need their final solution. The broom broke.
And then she summons a new one or crafts.
Yeah. It's just I wanted something, if you're following me, that led to perhaps her finding out that if this breaks too, I'm not sure. There's a bunch of possibilities, but
people are saying she summons a familiar to help her. Maybe the broom is mega strong, like a steel broom. She pulls out her crazy glue she bought from Home Depot earlier that day.
She what?
She pulls out her crazy glue she bought at Home Depot earlier today, just like the memory resolve is. She rides across in the cauldron. That would be kind of funny.
Oh, bingo. There it is. Thank you. You nailed it. So maybe, and it's got to be something that she oh, okay. I've got it. Okay, I've got it. That was pretty good. I like that cauldron one. But here she stumbles across the answer. Now we're rewriting her story. I apologize, but hopefully we'll get to. And thank you for your patience as we just had to kind of. And I'm glad those you were reading those. I'm not reading the chat. That was really helpful. Oh, no, wait, hold on, I got it better. So we're assuming, I'm going to assume that she is always back on the same side of the river. Throws that. Kicks the broom. We can have a lot of fun here. Maybe the snag or the inner tube or the cauldron that. Anyway, she can be throwing all sorts of stuff. Maybe one more pose of total insanity would be fun. This was maybe the inner tube. And finally, defeat. Exhausted. Only to, yeah, maybe, let's see. to see. Sorry, not same size panel, but I'm going to, yes, actually do this. That is made quite an ordinary bridge. Let's see that she can be like, yeah, see, I mean, my drawing is mental, but I have to figure it out. You know, we just stage it first. So I think, yeah, that's a lot more panels. Yep, sorry, I know it was just supposed to be 8, but we were, yeah, I think there, and then that leads us, this has to, you know, if this fails. So anyway, that's just one conclusion. I hope that makes sense, how that would lead maybe to a narrative. If you wanted to do it in 8, you might have to eliminate this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, 6 could be kicking all the things. 7, 8. You might be able to skip right through it. 2. Things keep breaking. Throws them all in the river to make a bridge. Anyway, just a thought. Okay, but that's fun. I enjoyed that. And
People in the chat were talking about how it's hard to tell a story within the 8, and I said that is the challenge. Deceptively seems like, oh, 8's such a small number, but
yeah, it's just super
really
hard.
Tighten it all.
Yeah, I think I'm more you know, in storyboarding, a lot of times they're going with more and more panels these days, but in my mind usually makes too many panels. You know, I think of like step by step by step. But I think it's best to, yeah, if you could limit this concise is smart. It's really, really smart. I don't know. Yeah. You know, like in writing, you know, how much you can say with less. It's probably better. This was an example of I actually wanted to bring it up. Let's just read it again. Here's the messy story. Okay. Wow, that's really funny because I never read that. Because I was going to say, this is probably like looks along the lines of not just simple story, but simple drawing, like just so we can simplify it and make it very, very clear, which you pretty much said it right there. Because I said, this is something I'm going to have to, the point is, let's see if we can clean this thing up. Anyway, what do you mean? What do you mean? How do you mean? There's a, we can't all say over a 200-foot deep fissure like walking through the candy store. And furthermore, I'm sick of you guys, even though Mother didn't say a thing, I know he was thinking something dumb. Okay, this is funny. Don't know if he threw them all. Well, Okay. Yeah, some herb, I'm not sure if those are, but anyway, long story short is one way you can think about cleaning it up is one, clean it by simplification. And that's why you'll see, we'll touch on this a little bit later, but not to say that you should change your style, not at all. I'm not even close to saying that, but your approach to your style perhaps could be like start really simple. I really like this guy's attitude. I like his character and his ridiculousness. It's awesome and fun for me. It's entertaining. Obviously my style, I'm going to my style, but what I'm saying is just actually, sorry, I'm gonna make it really basic before. Like simple shapes, right? And then you can add your style on top of it, but like with this hand, maybe just a see how it's easy. It's super easy for me to change that hand position, right? Because I didn't really like to change drawings like shapes like this is easier than if we're doing like we start drawing like it doesn't matter the hand yet. Like even a gesture to it, like probably like that. But anyway, just your approach could possibly, you could learn just simpler shape designs. And then here, just worry about your main character. Make him have a clear, distinct haircut, I would say, or hair shape. And these people can really be just like suggestions. For where they are. In the background, generally, the more, since we're dealing with less information, you can't really pack it too much in. So we just, yeah. So there's just some ways to simplify the approach. Here you're dealing with pretty simple shapes, but just big rounds and everything. That's pretty funny. So this is pretty good. I like this. But yeah, see, there's too much, like maybe, obviously you said it, you'd clean it up, but you might think about just a clean shapes to place first. And then, you've got your style, which is definitely different than mine, but it's recognizable, and I think that's good. But this may be easier to build on these just solid shapes. Something to think about. Also, your approach, if yours works, just clean it up, then it's fine. as well. Anyway, obviously. So, anyway, some ideas. Judy, this was awesome. Oh, I just noticed our time. This is really clever. It's really nicely done. I was totally following along. You know, obviously, the words help. We get over there. At this point, she's got the ball. The boy wants the ball. And this fella, all of a sudden, yeah, randomly and very unexpectedly, yeah, parts the sea here, and kind of get it afterwards. Like it's kind of, yeah. So, yeah, I think this is quite cool. My thought here again was story-wise, not to complicate it, but I almost thought that she should get the ball. She has got it. I know it's 8 panels, so we would have to shrink it, but my thought was that he screams. This guy is yet to help, because the point is that I think that he obviously could have made it a very difficult task so ridiculously easy with magic, but he never even bothered. And he's sitting right there the whole time, right? So I was almost thinking that she then has to swim back, pushing the ball. Finally gets it to the boy. Only to have him maybe unsatisfied. Maybe he sees something else. Maybe because he yells ball. I'm not sure. And he wants something else across the river. And then Moses activates, does the whole thing, satisfies the kid. My thought process is simply that he has to essentially not care at all about her. He can't, here he finally helps her. But I think it'd be fun, or helps the kid, but essentially her get back across to get the ball. And so he's just late to the game. But it's more funny if he never even cared about her problems. She brings back the ball, goes through all of it, only to then he reveal that he could have parted the waters at any time. I don't know. So no real notes, but I was just thinking about that. If I could do something to think about, it's just ideas. These were pretty impressive. I just wanted to look at that. This is this is a beautiful panel. This is a great comic book, just great, beautiful. This is also nice action as well. I'm really enjoying that. Yeah. So I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure how he feels at the end. I'd like to know if he's kind of embarrassed or happy that he was saved by his other strapping hero as they literally sail away into the sunset. This was something I just found unique, so I would share it with you guys, and it's completely different than any direct physical way of storytelling, I guess. I would have thought this is like storytelling through geometry. I don't know how else to say that. Symbolism and suggestion, and yet you kind of walk away with it with a really clean, very clean idea. I just wanted to show this to say this person is very interesting approach for a comic. We kind of infer everything, which is really clever. We kind of have to engage with it, become part of it, understand it, but it requires us to know what the heck is going on. This does not represent anything really until we interpret it. Whereas ordinarily the comics and everything, it says what it is, it represents somebody doing an action and everything. It makes very, very clear. But this is fascinating. And then we have to kind of infer, and that's very clever and a little bit more cerebral. And then the relationship, it's all symbolic, really. It's all symbolic rather than totally representational. I thought that was amazing. Something I'm going to think further about. And this was just cute. I like this jump. Oh, I don't think I got both of them. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. You'll have to look up this Micah's panel, but I really liked this leap, this bend back. It was just a cute way of jumping. And then our sequential action, and off we go. So that was good. Okay, so moving on, but good job. I didn't have time to go through every single one, but I spent more time than I should have, like just reading the stories, it was pretty fun. Okay, so switching gears quickly, because I know we have limited time. But long story short is, if you guys liked doing the comics, keep doing them. They aren't easy. Please continue doing comics. I hope started everybody thinking about some ways, but basically, what do I draw? Every comic, for the most part, if it was clear, I didn't care about the style. So when you sit down, you can just say, let me present, right? And this is a little bit about story, but this is simple, making this comic, right? Obstacle. I repeat this all the time. Objective, sorry, hello. Objective, obstacle, outcome. And there's ways to make sure that that's a comedic outcome, essentially that you lead somebody to believe a series of actions will conclude a certain way, and then you put a twist. A twist is simply that the outcome is different than the audience has been led to assume, right? And twists, as many as you can throw in all the time, it's fantastic. You should literally, I was reading one of my books about screenwriting. It's like every scene should end with a twist. Essentially, every outcome should be a twist. Every one. So you have the objective, the obstacle, then the obstacle, the character is going to overcome that obstacle some way. We're led to believe in the way that the character will overcome it, and then find out that they either overcome it in a different way, or of course, if we're writing a subsequent scene, the story goes on, they will not achieve their outcome. Another simple way of saying all this is, a character is an objective, something that wants something. So if you've seen it this way, conflict, conclusion, right? These are like, 3 C's, 3 O's that mean exactly the same thing. But anyway, that's kind of a different class, but just say that when you think of what should I draw, you can draw these little comics, come up with a problem, solve it. Okay, so we're going to jump right into drawing from life. We've held back for some reasons, but ultimately, what can we get out of, I'm going to explore what we can get out of drawing from a reference, from life. Here we'll use photo reference. Of course, you go to life drawing and things like that. Just give you my feedback on what you can learn from it. How do I approach it? Things like that. So first thing is the analytical approach, okay? And so essentially to analyze the things that we've already talked about in the class, but we analyze. So in other words, rather than the approach of like drawing this really accurately, especially with figure drawing where you don't have that long, or copying every line and then things like this, I would look at this as the analytical. So what are the things we will be looking for, are the exact things we would start with. So I'm trying to like learn from the figure rather than draw the figure perfectly, So let me look at my line of action. And these are the things I picked 3 that I would analyze different ideas with, and I'll go through approaches, how I would do that. This is hard stuff, but I see a line of action kind of moving forward, and then that's kind of going through that foot or that leg. So these are the things I'm, assessing. Okay, so maybe I would have that gesturally. So go like that. Here's one foot. I will analyze it in relationship to this foot, where it is on the ground plane. After I've established, I kind of had to establish this hips. And although it's sweeping here, I feel like the back is arched. So anyway, the next thing I'll be looking at is like how far over the torso is this way from the hips. So where's my center of gravity? And how far over the head is? Like so. So let's just throw some ideas in. So now, next way to analyze this, see if I understand this, and a really good way to practice your drawing is exploring the twist and exploring the way that these shapes are in relationship to each other. So if I twist, if I do a, sometimes the rectangle, something I really enjoy. I will analyze or set up the way this rib cage box is going. And you can see the twist here from the pelvis is pretty strong, right? Where essentially the axis, right? The axis here has been, is like, and then twisted towards us a little bit. And so basically, if I had the, what I'm saying is if I have the model and then same with the head, one great approach is, again, not to just draw what you see. I'm not a big fan of that, actually, but to try and understand it. So that analyzing it based on, and being able to visually communicate very clearly with these simple shapes, how this all will geometrically essentially fit together. So before we get ahead of ourselves, yeah, so this was essentially the twist. Let's continue with our shapes. This one, cylinder, going, the end of the cylinder is what shows you kind of how that one worked. In other words, which direction it's going. So this is essentially like, yeah, the analytical approach to figure drawing. In the analyzing how these shapes work in 3D, if you have a question about how to represent something, the answer is generally your style answer is to just be very clear. So the idea I think is that you kind of you train that ability to see shapes in space, right? So just interesting. Okay. So we'll do this a couple more times with this analytical approach to assess some different issues. So this shows real nice how that arm inserts into this area, right? And then we have this wonderful depth. Let's talk about it. Yeah. But things like this are great for depth, right? Then you have the rib cage, and then you've got this essentially latch coming back around it. That's great. Okay, so that's the twist. It's great to see a twist. I think twists are fantastic for action. So think about that. Like when the torso is twisted, we've got really cool dynamics happening. Okay, feet, I touched on that. So let's see some issues here. Here's some other things so pitfalls and problems that we can fix. Okay, so we definitely touched on this in the last one. Oh, this is great. So always start with a big, you don't always see it, you know. Always start with that line of action. That's figure drawing.
Were these ones that you guys took at LCAD, these pictures?
You know, I don't even know because I just took these from Larissa had. This looks like it's somebody's garage.
Oh, okay. It's probably him. He's an LCAD model who's like always there. His name is
Yoni,
I think.
Yoni.
Yeah. I don't know. He's on Instagram and he posts a lot of his figure drawing escapades. You know, I think it's his full-time job is like being a figure for people to admire.
I was actually at LCAD subbing, I don't remember who, when he first did his first modeling gig.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he showed up and he's such a great guy, like such a great person who's just.
Oh, yeah. He's nice.
He's been through a lot in life and he's achieved a lot and he's just cool. But yeah, I think and then he said later I saw him again and he's like, I don't know, he said like I was kind of the first person who supported him to do this or something like that. I was like, oh, cool. I don't even remember that. I do remember.
Tiffany, for everybody lost. Danny taught at a school called LCAD or Laguna College of Art and Design. I know the translation can get a little funny on the subtitles, but yes, Tiffany got it. The man in the figure or the man in the picture would go to LCAD and model a lot. And he's a really nice guy. And it was cute because after every figure drawing session, especially in the longer sessions, he'd get really excited to see what everybody, you know, drew of him. But yeah, also Devani asked in here, how does one become a figure model? And you can actually sign up at I would say sign up at like community colleges and stuff like that, because that's obviously way more safe than probably some creeper on Craigslist, even if they have good intentions looking for a model. But I find that with figure drawing, it's kind of like once you find an in, you find other studios, and it's kind of a rolling ball. Does this figure model have a website? No, Tiffany, or he might.
He might, actually.
But I know of his Instagram. I'll see if I can dig it up.
So here I'm just analytical, not drawing what I see, right? Now, one thing is also, you know, this head looks like both the heads in these poses seemed quite profile-y, you know, but that's not quite enough. So I would look, where can I sneak in? Do I see a little bit of a side and do I see a little bit of a bottom? I think so. And so that just, you know, I just err on or push towards a sense of depth, right? So notice I did the torso this way, but this is the beauty about analytical approach, right? I might actually, and I didn't even mention it. Oh, I did. Okay, axes through here. But actually, now that I look at it, I'm going to think the axes are kind of going that way. And so maybe I'm going to consider like very, I don't know. I'm going to look at it, but this is why it's fun. And this just being really, really foreshortened back. This being the side. This can, yeah, okay, I'll go with that. That's pretty dynamic because this is the side. If you come down to here, notice again, we're always paying attention to the pinch here. Essentially what happens when you have a reference, let's say, okay, and this is going to play into the next approach, is that you're not copying the model. I'm not. I'm using the model to pose for me, to have the pose, to have the story, to have the depth, to do everything, so I can just sit back and study what it is I'm focused on studying. And that's really important. And nowadays, there are a bunch of fine art schools, right? If you've heard of it, you know, ateliers and classical painting. And what they do is they have the model stand there in real time. I don't know why, but anyway, and do that for hours, like 1 week, 2 weeks, depends. And I can understand it if you're painting and you want the colors and light from real life. But as far as a long pose drawing, anyway, it's interesting. They draw exactly what they're looking at. An analytical element of it is minimal. It's more just kind of shapes, angles, real refined measurements, proportional measurements, things like this that come into play. And it's not to say that that's not very interesting or it couldn't make very cool art. But anyway, it's not kind of understanding, although this comes into play, it's not really understanding the dynamics of what's going on to then lead you into, you know, drawing your own stuff. And it's an approach that would be an approach non-analytical, because of drawing something, if you intend to always draw from something. So in other words, if you need to draw the figure, you need to find someone who's going to hold still for a long time, always, you know. Whereas I like the analytical approach, because then when we do go to figure drawing, just short poses, understand them, train them, think about how you draw stuff in space when the model is just doing pretty much all the work for you as far as setting up the pose, the depth, then the weight distribution. And you just see how you can draw things in space, practice that, and then, you know, go back to making your own stuff. Is that, yeah. So, and so when I'm doing this, I'm not as concerned with how the end result is, but if I've put these cylinders and shapes in the correct orientation in space, that's this analytical approach. Have I analyzed this stuff correctly? And it can be really fun. And that's why remember I had it one way and I switched it. And I said, actually, oh yeah, that's cool. This works better this way, you know, thinking about it. But yeah, as far as being an actual figure model, I think if you're really professional and work with yeah, schools essentially rather than individuals, I don't know. I think it can be a pretty neat career. They're people who just kind of do it and don't understand what they're doing. And then there's people who are really professional and really helpful, know what they're doing. And those people I really appreciate. And they have a couple of them doing pretty well with it. But also just practice standing still for 20 minutes a few times, and then be sure you want to do that. Just try it. It's really hard.
Usually, if you guys are interested in taking in-person figure drawing, places are, I think, probably opening back up. They are all over, especially if you're like in a city. Like, I'm pretty lucky in that there's probably a lot of different studios I can go to, but if you look up studios near you, they'll usually have like a figure drawing night or something, and you just pay like a one-time fee, and it can be really beneficial. And typically they'll also say if they're like a long pose or short poses and whatnot, because there is something magical about doing it in person. It's like you just like see so much more, probably because you feel their pain. You're just like, wow, all their weight is really on that one leg.
Yeah, and also community. I think that's another place where you can meet some cool artists, get some tips, get some ideas. Artists come together to just hang out and do that. So here's just, again, Amy showing an analytical approach, not drawing exactly what I'm seeing, but just how we would go from a cylinder, maybe add a shape. Here's something, as I'm doing this, I would just throw out, this is a kind of a neat idea. The concept as we build shape onto shape, positive shapes. I'm not sure if I touched on this, probably not. But as we get into real figure drawing, can tend to get more naturalistic. One way you can show construction, I mean really strong three-dimensional shapes in space, is positive. Yeah, I think I did mention it, but you'll see it in the play. Positive curves. Okay. Here's basically, it's one of the rules which a lot of people fall prey to, and you can, if you just avoid it, you will have a stronger drawing. Not to say you can't do it. I'll show you that in a second. But let's say we're doing a shape. We'll do a torso. We've got pectoral muscles. We've got the rib cage here. We've got some obliques down to this, right, to this pelvis, that rib cage. These abdominals, and you can see that I've essentially built this character, this figure, with all positive curves, essentially curves that go outwards. What I have not done is taken a shape, any of the shapes, and gone like this. Okay, but you say, what about right here? It's very possible that I go, hey, look, the rib cage coming out, and then it comes in, and then it goes, curves out like that and in. But that curve right there is problematic. And so what you want to think about is always overlaps. So what would that mean is, oh, wait, you see a positive shape like this is a positive shape overlapped by a positive shape like that. If it's a more subtle, I'll show you if I can find one. Let's say this leg, right? And so we're drawing with this leg. I've drawn the outlines, I'm just like this. See, this is a problem. This is a here's all my problems. This is a problem. This is a problem. They should always be going out, 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 out. And so see how this gets wobbly and unsure what the heck is happening? Here's how we make it not that. This is positive. This is positive. It's still looking a little bit wobbly, but even if it's a very, you would soft curve, you would still go positive, 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 right? And now all of a sudden you have a much more solid shape. So not to say you can't have those curves, but you can also not have them, and you will have more solid shape. So there's just something to put back there, and basically be aware of when you do make a curve, if you really want to keep it like that. I'm going to make sure that doesn't creep in. But see, now I can build on shapes. And so this type of analytical stuff, as you can tell, if I haven't said it too many times already, is all about, right? These exploring this concept of 3D. Okay, so let's, anyway, I think that was, one. So let's see, foreshortening. Okay, this is cool, yeah. So I'll move a little bit quicker, sorry, but there's some things, we can skip a break if we used to have one. Okay, so let's use those axes. You can see that. I wonder if we looked at the axes here. Make sure, right? The axes always look like they're this way, right? They're always kind of opposing. This one you can't quite tell, but they're never parallel, and they're never, usually not right parallel. They're usually that. Okay, so anyway. Okay, so another way we can use this, and I'm going to just move. For foreshortening, one of the ways we can really help ourselves accomplish it, there's two ways. But the easiest way is to just say, here's my figure, where's the hand? It's overlapping the body. I want it to come out, but it doesn't. It literally overlaps the body. This is so I have to fit shoulder, bicep, tricep, forearm, wrist, everything in this squished area. And that means this hand, look at my negative space. It's not out here. That'd be really nice if I could put that hand out there so I could put all those muscles. But right now you just have to, essentially you just tell yourself right from the sketch, everything's going to fit right there. Don't know how. But that's one way to tackle foreshortening when you've got the model right there, because the model sets up those visual limits. Okay. And yeah, you can draw, we'll get to this next in a second. Faces, whatever. But as far as the analytical goes, I do like boxes. So there doesn't seem to be much of a twist here. But there is a pinch kind of this direction, which I'm switching this that way. Okay, I like that. So my axes, yeah, this and this is more clear. Might change this now. Let's see, to just be a little bit. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. The way you design this curve is important. That shows how the shape, right? Now you know right with perspective that center line is no longer in the center. It's going to sneak further away from us. All right, so those curves you get used to them, but it's important that all your information you put in serves how you twist things. So if it seems really simple, that's good. So just make sure you're doing them right and then try and be very clear. I'll do one more real quick. Basically of this. Oh, right. I forgot that this was foreshortening. So to get to this hand, it's cool. This cylinder needs major turn towards us, you know? And same here. So you really don't want, with foreshortening, I guess what I would say is make sure that you see that as an opportunity to get it rather than to avoid it. So you're going to be super aware that you didn't accidentally make the arms too long in order to accommodate all the muscles, but that you did the work to fit all that stuff in the foreshortened space. So again, I would like, let's say for this hand and this arm, I'd say, that's it. You've got to fit it all in there. So anyway, actually, yeah. So anyway, and then, yeah, essentially this all can come together. Let's see, I'm just checking time. Okay. Actually, let's move on. So next is figure drawing. We did, because we have the reference there, this might look like pretty creative stuff, but the next approach you can do is, here we go, the stylistic approach. Okay, so essentially here's you know, some Russian drawings there at the best, I think, for your academic classical. Here's like a Disney artist, but it's got a good, you can see stylistically we're quite different from the long pose Russian classical drawing in the 19th century, although this is done today too. But here you're going to have shorter poses, still very analytical, full of volume, but a lot more gesture. And this is a style I really appreciate. And then you've got some artists that are more along the, and this is how I differentiate them. There's a billion ways to do it, but the storyboarding and animation side. So this is Tom Gately, and he was a big time figure drawing teacher. See, they're very simple, right? But he was a big time figure drawing teacher at Pixar. He influenced tons of people, including the storyboard artist Matt Jones, influenced and taught. And so Matt Jones, you know, he has his own figure drawing books and worked at Pixar for a little bit, worked at Netflix, etc. And he's had a long career doing storyboards, but you can see that the action and style here, all from life, right? These all from life, but what the different artists are looking for stylistically. So what I mean by the stylistic approach is yet again a way of not copying the model, but using the model as basically solving a lot of the problems that we've already worked on, essentially, to give us a face, to give us a pose, to give us a costume, to give us everything. And then we just interpret it, whether it be like before analytically understanding how shapes and volume work, or here stylistically what our outcome is. And so here's just a fun exercise I've done. I'll do it really quickly, kind of illustrate how you might do it yourself. Stylistic approach. And it also helps refine what your styles and your understanding of styles are. So you basically, now you can look at people, art, you know, and with figure drawing, you know, understand how you want to do it. So let's see, I'm going to do.
Danny, what was the name of the animator or the guy who did the storyboarding you just showed him? What was his name?
Let me make sure you got this one here.
Yeah, Jones.
Matt Jones. Yeah.
Thank
you. Yeah.
Long.
And stylistically, you'll have your own style, but you might, you know, and that's important. But as you get there, right? And then when you get there, I don't know. I think you get there, quite frankly. there's an end. Become who you are a little bit. But along the way, you might see other people, what they're doing, and really explore. And you still incorporate, I still incorporate, no, not so much, but, just looking at what certain people do. Along the way, I would say I was influenced and be able to absorb styles along the way. And still, like, I might sit down and go, eyes, just changing the eyes, right? But what this guy has done is it's given me I don't have to think about my character have a mustache, is it fancy guy or not? Here I have super fancy guy, mustache, and then I play with it. So this is, like I said, the stylistic. I'm worried the model has given me the chance to not have to create all this, come up with all that. Okay, so I'm just talking out loud here. I find myself being a little bit too literal, not simplistic enough. I'm kind of repeating my answers. I want to see if I can get more clever. Let's see, I think I can. Oh, it's always a good way to do that is just start with the big picture first. So this happens to me all the time. Don't know if this happens to you, but where I will get a reference and I just try and my brain goes to copying it really, rather than using it to kind of, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Like we should be using it as a springboard to answer some questions, and then we interpret it stylistically. How would this person? But you see, with like even I remember watching interview with the Pixar Diana Margigliese or something. But anyway, that different iterations they've come up for one character's face. The different styles. Let's say for this guy, based on this guy, it was a fantastic how they would vary it from different. Interpretations to maybe convey different personalities, of somebody. I've been trying to make this beard like work the way I see it in the picture, and I'm not being successful. So why don't I just make it really easy? Right? Make it so everyone else understands. It doesn't have to look like this picture. That doesn't matter at all. And so I'm going to do one last thing, which I frequently have to do. Let's see, once I finish this fellow. And that last thing would be doing that. So now we can continue with this style of person. But I feel like my creativity, I kind of remember his nose and everything, but my creativity can still, yeah, for me, it's not as, I'm not as, I'll do one last one. But you can see that I think they're getting much, I'm having much more fun and they're getting better. Like this one was, you know, even this one wasn't as, I wasn't solving for the image, for my image that I drew. And now I'm solving for my image that I'm drawing. So anyway, we'll let's do this. Just change things up a little bit. I haven't really changed my nose design. That's okay. And, you know, obviously, you know, I'm finding now, I'm like, look, I don't need to see the hair back there. I know, okay, the photo had it right, so I'll have to put it. But now that I'm not looking at it, I know it was there, but I don't care. So stylistically, good luck to you as far as coming with style to analyze, or excuse me, not analyze, but they can use the reference, but then still, you know, change it or use your style to represent the reference. This is a great representation for me of that man. I think it's good. I couldn't have done that personally. I'm just sharing with, if I was looking at the reference, I don't think I could have. I just would have copied it. So anyway, that's one way of exploring the stylistic approach. The photo gives you so much that you can springboard into new ideas without you trying to come up with like, who's my character? What's he wearing? What's he look like? What's, you know, all these things. oh, do I have to come up with a catalog of like 100 different styles of noses out of my head? No, let's just what do you call it, like kind of like just lost the word, but like figure out like based on one nose, like a bunch of different variations. That could be quite fun. Okay, so okay, so stylistic approach, storyboard, fine arts, etc. So here we go. Let's just do some drawing. Yeah, okay, so what I might do is like, I guess just to give you an idea, there's a bunch of styles under the sun, but I kind of think of it like the more fine art approach, the more storyboard approach. The more fine art approach can be a little bit more realistic. Let's see. Okay, so here's my two approaches. Let's just make it real simple. This one, I'm not going to do this. This is multiple hours. You know, it's probably maybe over an hour for sure. And then these can be, you know, 10 minutes, and these can be 2 minutes. So I like 3 minutes is enough for my attention span. And I should say attention span and goals. So let's go again. Sorry. This style is a very good contemporary traditional working style, and this style is, and this too. It's just nice for like different. This is the two I kind of see and enjoy. You don't have to start from nowhere. Put down your ideas, understanding. Okay. And this style is very much, I should say, based on the analytical, right? This is much more, I'm not doing it now because I'm trying to do a demo. I hope that doesn't make you think like, oh, I should just go in and start drawing fast or whatever. But really underneath it all is understanding how these shapes are oriented and all that stuff. And with this approach, because the model is there, we can have some expressive line work and everything, which is harder to do if you're just making something up. So that's part of the fine art approach too, is stylistically or more realistic. You can mess around because the answer guide is right here. And so we can kind of, when you're coming up with it out of your imagination, it's harder to have expressive lines that may be more suggestive and everything. So this is fun. I think mine's a little too tight. I would like to loosen it up even, but oh well. That's why you do it, you know. I think my third drawing might get a little looser of this style. But anyway, so hopefully what I'm trying to say is that with this style, we can be focusing on, how we're turning these shapes, some expressive movements with these, like exaggerative. Let's go. I'll do it real quick. Kind of warmed up. So we can be kind of exaggerating and dynamic. You can see I'm not at all drawing real accurately, as the Russian artist might be doing. We're adding a lot of dynamism, so that's why that John Navarro's image I was showing, got a lot of this rhythm and actions to explore. And it's really quite cool. This foot should technically be here. Oh well, I don't care. Here we have this nice pinch and leaning over. This nice stretch. See, I think this is a far more successful drawing personally because it's just far more fun than this. This is really boring. And yet this is still very naturalistic, I feel like. It's still very real. And that's why we do, you warm up and this. Well, I just should say that those things I'm looking for in my own drawing when I do it. And so, yeah, in the interest of time, then I would like also to, so that's the kind of really cool approach there. This is still expressive about those movements and rhythms on those shapes. And then the other would be just storyboard. Like, quite frankly, this would be what I would do if I was looking at this. I'd be like, kind of like what we were doing with the face a second ago.
That's how I feel like I look when I do yoga. Going through the pain. So Danny, as you draw, it's 3:51. Is there a recap of basically how many you want them to do?
Yeah. So let me, oh, wait, okay. Yeah, so essentially, yeah, so thank you. We'll get to that homework. I think our homework was 10. So you're going to eventually be doing 10. I'm just not getting this expression right. That's okay.
And they can be in any of these styles. They can be more traditional or more cartoony, kind of what's up to them.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's today was a bit of an overview of those two. I hope it was clear, those two styles. See which one you can do both, or you can, which I do sometimes. See which one suits you. You could answer the question which one suits you just by what you want to do. I think that's a practical way. You know, what you like is cool, but what's your job eventually going to be? And pick a style that looks like that's how like all the storyboard artists draw this way, because they're just looking at like, or if you're just in there to have fun and stuff, you might, or practice some more realistic stuff, character design and things like that. You might be going in this vein, because literally I might be thinking for this one, like, yeah.
I would say well, I guess it's more of a question. They shouldn't really focus on like clothing. They should really focus on like the line of action and the figure's motion.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't. I have a little costume. Okay, I didn't touch on that. Yeah. So yes, don't worry about the costume, clothes, etc. Just use, the way I use clothes is. Oh, and notice one thing real quick, but I just want to point out that, like, notice in this example here, look at the body shape I'm using. It doesn't even matter, right? Like, we're getting the poses for these little figures. If you do what I do, I just use the costume, whatever it might be. It's just for the cross contours. So like right there, boom, thank you very much. That tells me the orientation, the direction of that perspective for that leg. That's cool. Even feet, you don't have to be perfect feet, just what really expresses how this person doing. And then, see, I should have maybe added, here we go. See, now that's a fun drawing. So, I personally, I know a lot of figure drawing is like, yeah, I really like costume and story figure drawing. It's like, but anyway, that's not quite what we're discussing in this class. Okay, so, but notice that basically with this, we've added expression. I've changed, I've altered the pose to maybe express that, here she might be looking into the sun, here she might be holding up the world. Here we've changed the, we've added story. These things you're interpreting, again, it's this fun approach, right? Okay, so let's see if we can do it. Reference. essentially what I've been saying all day. Reference can give you the pose, costume, and proportions, allowing pure stylistic exploration. Allowing you to not just copy the photo, that's not really where we're at, not to draw what you see, but to do an analytical approach of which figuring out the orientation of the shapes or stylistic approach. That being said, let's just skip straight to this lady. I'll do 1 minute. We just did it with everything else, but one last kind of possible exploration.
As Danny draws this gal, I posted in the chat, I know I've talked about it a lot, but there's a link for it, a website called Line of Action. It's completely free. They have tons and tons of models, and you can choose whether they're naked, whether they're not naked, what kind of body you want to see. You can do timed, untimed. It's just a great place for, you know, this kind of exercise, especially if you're kind of stumped and you want to challenge yourself to do more than just like a standing pose with different arm movements.
Yeah, that's great. I think for us, you know, I think because there's a variety of people in this class, we're going to keep it clothed. The models, I think Larissa mentioned that.
I was just saying that the references have the option because not everybody wants to see naked people and some people do. Also, Larissa's back. Hello, Larissa.
Hi, I just popped in just to make sure everything was good and then to chat with Danny after class.
All right. So yeah, just let's see. So here I haven't made the hair very clear, but we made some stylistic decisions based on this. And I might even, you know, again, like we did before, maybe turn off the photo. Could be fun to keep coming up with ideas, but you can see the liberties that the photo actually provided me the opportunity to do rather than, you know, so that's, anyway, there's a couple approaches. I'm not sure my expression makes perfect sense. And this is another thing, like a parting thought, I would say, make sure your drawing in this approach makes sense. Like just because we're drawing a photo, like we've emulated the photo, it should be all right. But wait a second, that's a goofy expression. What is mind doing? Would someone just seeing this alone understand what I'm doing? Making somebody who's a bit bonkers. I'm not even sure if I can. So what I might do, see, that was just getting too confusing. So let me just do. So at least that communicates clearly somebody doing something, whereas before it wasn't so clear to me. Even though I've perhaps changed the expression a little bit. I can try and go for that crazy expression too, but anyway. So pick your style, whether it's the analytical or stylistic. If it's stylistic, I mean, sky's the limit there, but just thinking, yeah, basically go back and see some ideas for that based on what you're interested in. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Let me stop share there. Thank you guys for, well, I would say, yeah, that's it. So I don't know if I see you briefly next week for homework, but if not, good luck with the rest of your class and the rest of this figure drawing for illustrators and animators. This was fun. So
yeah, thank you so much, Danny.
You're very welcome.
It's been great having you for these sessions, and I really so thankful that you were able to come in and take over this part of the class for me, because I know you're very skilled, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what these guys have done under your tutelage next week. And if you can come in for a little bit to take a look at what they've done, that'd be great. I would appreciate it.
Okay, cool. I will.
Okay, and then next week we'll see you guys, and next week we will be starting on character layout and basic perspective. So you'll be taking the information that you've gained these last 3 weeks from drawing the figure, and then what we'll be doing is talking about how to place these figures in an actual 3-dimensional space. So have fun. See you next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, David. Bye, everybody. Bye, Leonia and Dewana. Okay. Bye. So how did it go, Danny? What did you think? I'm just checking in with you. What is it? The cool down or the wrap up?
Oh, yeah, I hope it was helpful. I think there's, yeah, I think I maybe put a lot in there, but I really liked it, what everybody did for homework last week. I think that was cool.
I didn't get a chance to see anything.
Well,
I haven't even been in the file folder, but I will take a look this week. So
yeah, the first week they really got it too, actually, the gestures and putting those little mannequin figures, doing actions. This is perfect.
Well,
yeah.
All right. I know you did it in a different approach than I would, so it's really great to see that. And I'm glad that you did it in a little bit of a different approach, because that means that, yeah, there's always a new way to learn something, and they're getting a lot of stuff out of it. So
My
excited.
approach is always changing anyway.
Is it really?
Yeah, well, like the way I teach it, or the way I explain it, or add, it's always different.
Yeah, I probably should change it up a little bit too, but I'm just like, I just add on top of what I get. So, all right, well, if you can come in for like maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes next week, or, more, whatever, 30 minutes if you want, that'd be great. If not, let me know, but I'll compensate you for that time too.
Okay. Yeah, no, okay. I'm happy to, basically I would come in and just give some feedback of the homework.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll plan on that just for a half hour, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, right. My pleasure. I'm glad that yeah, good, easy, no problem.
Okay, cool. All right. And Eden, how are you? Are you looking at files?
Great. I'm what?
Are you looking at files right now? Are you looking at
yes. I was
this very discerning look on your face just now.
Oh, I was looking, I was like, did they submit new late submissions? Because sometimes people will put them at the very end, and then they'll be like, why didn't I get feedback? But nobody did.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, then I will see you tomorrow, Eden, and next week I will see you, Danny. All right.
Bye, Dave. Thanks so much. Always great seeing you draw.